state constitution is massive. If you were to read it straight through like a book, it would be similar to a Harry Potter book. Like it takes you, I don't know, 8 or 10 hours, maybe not a Harry Potter book, but a pretty big book. And the United States Constitution, including all of the amendments, 30 minutes, 35 minutes. It's not a big deal. And so brevity in rules is a critically important thing, because if you have less things that you're doing, you can do them better.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that I love the way you said it. If you do a really good job at very few things, then you actually have a functional organization.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, and in the Libertarians' opinion, the federal government is involved in everything worldwide, many things that it shouldn't be involved in. What we really expect out of the federal government is to hold accountable, transparent, and accurate elections, to make sure that we have a system of coinage that we can use so to make commerce work, to make sure that people are playing fair in commercial transactions, state to state, nationally, make sure that there's a fair treatment of market participation, so there isn't allowed corruption or graft or force. And then other than that, generally protect our borders from invasion, violent invasion. And that's essentially, I mean, if you read the Constitution of the United States, there's 16 enumerated powers.
Mm-hmm.
And they really don't put a lot of focus on any of them.
Yeah.
But they put a whole lot of focus on foreign wars. They put a whole lot of focus on
pandering,
on pharmaceuticals, medicine, drugs, tons of focus on drugs. They put a ton of focus on infrastructure projects, right? But remember, all of the infrastructure projects, 99.9% of infrastructure projects happen in a state that is supposed to be sovereign according to the 10th Amendment.
Yeah.
And those states should be doing those things. I mean, really the Interstate Commerce Act, like making a national road system so they could get tanks from coast to coast to quell uprising, really changed the nature of federal government when it comes to infrastructure.
Yeah.
And in the state, they're involved in regulating everything. And then they're now, I mean, counties, they've always said local control is best. And it doesn't get more local than the individual, but now counties are being, their powers to protect their state is being stripped as well by the state.
Yeah. Well, and it's eroding, it's going from the state into the city for sure, right?
Yeah. So the concept of libertarians is that we think the government should do a really great job of the things that it's supposed to be doing, and it shouldn't do anything else.
Yeah.
And what we really want is for people to be free to transact one another, and the government should be protecting that from force, coercion, graft, theft, and fraud. And so that's the Libertarian Party platform.
Yeah, I think that was helpful.
In a nutshell.
So helpful. So helpful.
An hour and a half to get us there.
No, yeah, we need to go that.
That really is, I mean, that really is the conversation that I love to have, because it's the philosophical base of all other conversations regarding the Libertarian Party and my candidacy.
Well, so how would, because there's two questions that really I wanted to jump out at, is that when you're dealing with, so looking at the state level, how we have this thick constitution, and as a libertarian, you're like, okay, well, where do we start with, how do we start trimming the hedge, if you will, right? And start saying, okay, where have we really gotten out of whack, and where do we need to get back on track? That's the state level. But you're running for Congress. We want you in DC. So when you get to DC, there's these big rocks that I think are pretty across the board, the talking points, right? There's mismanagement, financial mismanagement. We have an exploding debt issue that is specifically Congress's fault. As much as they'll put it on the executive, it has very little to do. It does in a lot of ways, because we have this, we've given a checkbook to let them spend money on foreign,
Congress still controls the power of the purse. They can and should defund things.
They can and should. So that's a big one. We have, I think immigration is still a really important issue that, even though it's not necessarily the hot button item, I think it's something that needs to be focused on, especially knowing what we're at unemployment wise. We need humans to do jobs to keep the economy going, and we're sliding into a recession. No matter what, something's got to give, right? So I think that's an important one. What from your perspective, what are the important ones?
All right. So from my perspective, I do want to touch on another one. You brought up immigration. I'd love to touch on that because everybody has questions, because I'm a libertarian. Remember, my training came up in the Republican Party, but for me, money is the big one, because that was the control that the Constitutional Convention gave the people's house.
Mm-hmm.
They said, okay, you guys get to decide what gets funded. So really, if something else gets out of control, and they're not letting you rein them in, you can defund them. Like you're given that power. You don't like what the EPA is doing and you can't get them to come back within the directive that they got as an agency. Stop giving them money and all of their people will quit, and then they won't be able to carry out the thing that they're doing. And then if people want to keep their jobs, they'll go back to what they're supposed to be doing. It's like in my business. If somebody doesn't do what they're supposed to be doing, I can fire them. I can stop paying them. It's not like that guy, what is his name, Milton in Office Space. Like, I didn't get my paycheck and you took my stapler. So and it's kind of like that. Congress can defund an organization, and they should. In my opinion, the way that the executive branches got around that is in 1913, the 16th Amendment was passed. And the 16th Amendment created the progressive income tax, where the federal government could come into the states and tax the people directly who were citizens of those sovereign states. And it changed the narrative of the federal government. Huge, bigger than dramatically, bigger than anybody could have considered maybe at the time. Maybe there were some smart people that understood that. But there is a significant reason why it was set up that way, and that was so that Congress would continue to control the budget so that they could defund overreach. And there is an effort right now. So I got out there and I said, look, I want to repeal the 16th Amendment. I want to get rid of the income tax. I want to abolish the income tax. And everybody's like, whoa, that's a huge idea. And you're going to be a freshman halfway through another person's term. There's no way you're going to get that done, especially because you're a libertarian and you're not going to be on anybody's party. And Ted Cruz is running a bill through the Senate right now that abolishes the income tax. And there's a lot of support for it. You know, before 1913, the federal government used to have to pass a budget, something they haven't done in a lot of time, several decades. They used to have to pass a budget and then go to the states asking to pay for that budget. They used to have to go begging to the states for money. And now what happens is the states go to the federal government begging for money. So what we have is our taxpayer money at the state level lobbying taxpayer money at the federal level to pay for things that the states want, not necessarily the people. And the people get screwed in the process.